Hi, and welcome to the Becoming You podcast. My name is Lisa Hardy, and I am your host for this space. And I am also a life coach, specifically for moms, helping them reclaim their identity outside of motherhood, working on their goals, their own self-care, carving out time for themselves, and really building a joyful life. And I love every second of it. Whether you found me through Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, I am so glad you're here. And if you aren't already, be sure to hit that follow button. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the feeling of falling behind and why it's likely not a time management issue. So let's dive right in. Lately, I've been hearing the same sentence from moms again and again. And sometimes it's said out loud, and sometimes it is said quietly. And sometimes it comes with a laugh, and sometimes that doesn't land. And that is, I feel behind on work, behind on life, behind on home, behind on friendships, behind on myself. And it's the constant feeling that everyone else seems to be moving forward while we're just trying to catch up. And no matter how much you do, the gap never seems to close. And almost always, when that feeling shows up, we feel like this is a time problem. We tell ourselves that we need to manage it better. We need to be more organized, more disciplined, find the right system, wake up earlier, try harder, and keep trying again and again and again. But today, I want to actually slow this conversation down because the truth is the reason why you feel behind has very little to do with time management and everything to do with what you're carrying mentally and emotionally every single day. Most moms are not behind because they're somehow inefficient. They're not behind because they're lazy, and they're not behind because they're doing something wrong. They feel behind because they are overloaded. And I think this overload is sneaky in a way, right? Because it doesn't always look so dramatic from the outside. You might be doing all of the things. You might even be functioning, quote, well, but inside it feels heavy. It feels constant, and it feels like your brain is never, ever getting a break. And that's because the real work most moms are doing isn't physical and it's not visible. It's cognitive, it's the emotional, it's the constant background processing that really just never shuts off. This is what mental load actually is. It's not just a buzzword. It's not just that we're busy. Don't get me started when I just hear people say that. But mental load is the responsibility of noticing, remembering, anticipating, planning, adjusting, correcting, and holding. It's knowing what needs to happen before anyone asks. It's tracking down schedules that all look the same. It's remembering appointments, the groceries, the birthdays, the forms, the emails. It's anticipating the needs before those needs are spoken out loud. And for many moms, it's also sort of being this emotional barometer for the household, right? We're sensing mood, we're managing tension, we're trying our hardest to stay patient and staying calm. And we're often absorbing the stress so others don't have to. This is not just doing tasks, right? This is being mentally responsible for the smooth functioning of life. And the exhausting part is that responsibility doesn't clock out, right? It follows you into the evenings, into the moments that are supposed to be restful, into bed at night when we're up lying in bed and can't fall asleep because we have this, these millions of things running around in our mind. Because we're still scanning, we're still planning, we're replaying the day and oftentimes thinking about, well, I should have done this or I should have done that. And this is why rest can feel unsatisfying sometimes, right? You finally sit down and instead of relief, your mind just keeps going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. You're thinking about what you didn't get done, what's coming tomorrow, what you might be forgetting, and what still needs to be handled. So when you get advice that says, well, you just need more rest or you need better time management, it can feel so incredibly frustrating, but also invalidating because you're still trying to manage your time the best you can. You're doing the best you can, yet someone is just fluffing off that you just need to manage your time better. That is infuriating, actually, because it's not really touching the part of the problem that's actually draining you. You can have the best time management system in the world, but that doesn't account for all of that mental load that we carry. And, the exhaustion isn't coming from a lack of productivity tools. Although, don't get me wrong, they can assist and facilitate in things running smoothly. I do use a Sunday service session, for example. I've talked about this on my previous podcast that helps me plan out the week a little bit better. And so there is a place for those productivity tools, but it's really coming from carrying too much internally for too long. And this is also where the, invisible labor and the emotional overwhelm sort of intersect, because so much of what you do doesn't come from just checking something off the list, right? You don't get credit for holding it all together. You don't get the acknowledgement for the emotional regulation, the patience, the mental tracking, the constant adjusting. And over time, when that effort goes unseen, even by ourselves, our brain tries to make sense of the fatigue that we're feeling. And often the conclusion that it lands on is personal. It's the I'm failing, the I can't keep up, the everyone else seems to handle it better than I do. That belief in itself becomes a burden. It adds shame on top of the exhaustion. It adds some guilt. And it's important to name this because that belief is not the truth. It's a story formed under pressure. Feeling behind does not mean you are falling behind. It does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It means that you're operating inside of a system culturally, emotionally, relationally, societally, that quietly asks a lot of you and it rarely teaches you how to put anything down. And I think once we understand that, that is when the conversations can start to shift. Instead of trying to fix ourselves, we start looking at how we can support ourselves a little bit differently. But I will say relief comes when insight turns into action, not more action. We don't want to add anything else to your plate, but a different action. One of the most important things to understand is that the mental load lives in our head, not on your calendar. And one of the fastest ways to reduce is not by doing more, but by externalizing what you're carrying. So here's something simple I want you to try. I want you to spend 10 minutes today. Just 10, okay? Just 10. You don't need to spend an hour doing this. I want you to find a pocket of just 10 minutes. I want you to grab a piece of paper, a notebook, even a phone app if that's what you got. And I want you to write down everything that is currently living in your head, not just tasks, responsibilities, the things you're reminding yourself about, the things you're worried you'll forget, things you feel responsible for holding together, decisions that you've been postponing, emotional weight that you're managing. If it's looping in your mind, it belongs on the page. So please write it down. There's no need to organize it. There's no prioritizing, no fixing, just getting it out of your head and into the world and on paper. Because anything that only lives in your head, it is quietly using energy. And once you have everything written down, I want you to pause. It's going to be an important part of this process. I want you to pause and I want you to take a couple of deep breaths. And instead of asking, how do I get all of this done? I just wrote all this stuff down and oh my gosh, no wonder why I feel drained. How am I going to get all this done? I don't want you to go there. Okay. That's not what we're going to do. Instead, I want you to ask, what is actually mine to carry? Like truly ask yourself, sit with it. What is actually mine to carry? Look at the list, circle the things that truly require you. Notice the things that you've maybe assumed responsibility for simply because you always have. Notice the things that no one has explicitly asked you to hold. This step alone can create a little bit of relief because it interrupts the automatic loop that's going on. Awareness creates space, and space is where that change begins. Then choose just one thing, not everything, not the whole list, just one. One thing that you can release or externalize today. Maybe it's writing something down in a place you trust so your brain doesn't have to keep holding it. Maybe it's setting a reminder instead of relying on memory. Maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's deciding that something can wait, even if that pressure inside of you says it shouldn't. You don't reduce overwhelm by doing more. You reduce it by carrying a little bit less. There's also a mindset shift that I want to offer, because how you talk to yourself is part of the load you're carrying. And I talk about this so much if you've been following me for any certain amount of time, that how we talk to ourselves, the stories that we're feeding ourselves really matter. They truly do. If we are constantly telling ourselves that we're failing, then we're going to truly believe it. We're going to feel it in our bodies. It's going to be ingrained into our minds. And that's just not healthy, because chances are you're not failing at all. So when the thought of I'm behind shows up, and it likely will, try gently interrupting it in that moment. Not with forced positivity, but the truth. Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves are not fact. I want you to remember that. So when we interrupt that process in the moment, it can make a big impact. When the thought of I'm behind does show up, try saying something like, I'm overloaded, or I'm carrying more than is visible, or this isn't a personal failure, it's a capacity issue. See how that subtle shift can just change? It can release some of the guilt that we have when we feel like we're falling behind. When you stop making the struggle mean something about you personally, your nervous system can soften a little bit. And when your nervous system softens, clarity can become possible again. And this work isn't about fixing your life overnight. It's not about finally getting it right. It's about changing your relationship with pressure. It's about recognizing that you don't need to be more disciplined or more productive to feel better. You need systems, habits, and beliefs that support you, instead of asking yourself to hold everything together alone. So if you've been feeling behind, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not failing. You are functioning inside of a full, demanding life. And you are carrying an enormous unseen responsibility. So take the 10 minutes, practice releasing some of that mental load. Start by carrying less in your head. Start by meeting yourself with compassion instead of criticism. That shift, as small as it sounds, can change everything. And if you do put this into practice, I want to hear about it. I want to know how it went. You can comment on one of my videos on social media, or you can comment. I believe you can add a comment to the podcast wherever you are watching. We are available on Spotify, Apple. I'm on YouTube as well. Wherever you get your podcast, you can find us there. But let me know how it goes. And I'll leave you with one gentle reminder, is that you are worth showing up for, always. We'll see you next week on the Becoming You podcast.